Then it seemed like falling into a labyrinth. We thought we were at the finish, but our way bent round and we found ourselves, as it were, back at the beginning, and just as far from that which we were seeking at first. Socrates. In Greek mythology, the Minotaur was a creature that was part man and part bull. It dwelt at the center of the labyrinth, which was an elaborate maze-like construction built for King Minos of Crete. Metaphorically, I surmise the Minotaur represents the guardian of occult knowledge, sentinel of the Serpent in the Garden of Eden, withholding the secrets of creation from mankind. And the labyrinth? Well, that represents circular logic and the elaborate configuration of the brain and neural pathways. Of course there would be an Alice in Wonderland labyrinth at Disney World. Followers of my blog shouldn't be taken by surprise. And coincidentally, George Lucas, producer of Captain EO, or Captain Lucifer as I like to call it, Jim Henson, known for his Hollow Earth mumpkins of Fraggle Rock, and the multi-talented David Bowie helped to create one of the more famous renditions of the labyrinth. Notice the crystal ball motif ever present in movies like Legend, Lord of the Rings, and The Wizard of Oz. In fact, whenever a high wizard of the Illuminati takes leisure time in his wizard's tower, he's sure to have an all-seeing eye with him, or at least a symbolic version of one. Trapping the world in their fantasy land, their matrix of imprisonment, an alternate reality, an optical illusion. Please note, say, Jennifer Connelly being represented as Eve like countless other female martyrs, accepting the snow-white poison fruit of knowledge as she is swept away to another reality by Bowie and his minions.
It's strange.
Oh.
Hoggle, what have you done?
Oh, damn you, Jared. And damn me, too.
Everything's dancing.
Yes, the looking glass phenomenon seems to be everywhere these days. One of the major curiosities of man to be able to see into the future or hold power over others. If I had to pick one movie with the most occult overtones entangled within it, I would pick The Wizard of Oz without any hesitation. The wizard being a representation of Crowley's fourth-dimensional being Aiwass, who he is said to have met via magical ritual, the infamous hanging scene caught in the film, and perhaps the most bizarre and definitely unplanned sync-up, the oddities that occur when playing Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon as you watch the movie, and the triangular prism on the album cover creating the metaphorical rainbow that syncs up with the famous song Dorothy sings, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And here's Steve Jobs' representation of the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden and the rainbow. The bitten apple of Eden is most representative of man's desire for occult knowledge of his origins. It is instinctual and in no way should be looked upon as satanic or against God. And here's how Disney or other strangely inspired animators use their influence to breach the consciousness of children. Notice the inverted stars on the head of Rainbow Bride's favorite Mumpkin companion, as well as the aesthetic of rainbows being beaten into their young and malleable minds. Of course, their mind control programs wouldn't be complete without driving the parents completely mad when their kids start screaming for sugar-coated marshmallow symbols of the tarot that they just saw a leprechaun eating after their favorite Saturday morning cartoons. Here's a strange connection with rainbows and our blind Stargate navigator, Geordi of the Star Trek series. And the Skittles' famous Taste the Rainbow commercial, or Taste the Serpent, or Taste the Knowledge if you prefer. and a strange one linking my last Las Vegas post and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six game, a tactical shooter which focuses more on stealth than on sheer firepower. Terrorists or tangos can be dispatched with 1 or 2 shots. Clancy has worked with our 2 most renowned arc seekers, Harrison Ford in Patriot games and Sean Connery in The Hunt for Red October. This, of course, the Rainbow bogus terrorist alert system in place. Care Bear Stare, a cartoon featuring sigil shooting bears in their kingdom in the clouds. Nothing strange here, kids. Another vampiric energy beacon that looks a lot like the Epcot ball is the New Year's ball in Manhattan, or the Big Apple. More Garden of Eden reference, wouldn't you know it? Michael Tessarion has stated that he believes cities are built to be architectural ritual centers. Just look at Washington, D.C. and its 23 incorporated zodiacs. Cities are places where power is drawn from the unaware populace below. It makes you wonder who these wizards behind the curtain truly are, and what they mean to gain by these magical practices. The demonization of the sacred feminine for the past 2,000 years has had an unchangeable societal effect on equality and respect towards the life-bearers of this planet. They have forever been interweaved with portrayal of the naive, ignorant, and incompetent, thus giving way for an imbalance in nature and a hurdle for the human species to overcome if they are to evolve. The aggressive qualities of the male without the softness of the female in leadership positions will make it hard for alien races to accept us as collaborating citizens of the universe. Ridley Scott, director of Alien, has a major connection to the Eve Apple phenomenon. He directed one of the most watched Super Bowl commercials of all time for Steve Jobs and Apple computers, and he directed the mystical movie Legend, where we see the crystal ball motif yet again, and our favorite occultist puppet, Tom Cruise. Tim Curry plays one of the most honest representations of Satan, or the Minotaur, in his role as Darkness. The character Lily in the movie, as most females do apparently, tainted the balance of the world when she touched the sacred unicorn, which set off a chain of events that could have destroyed the entire planet.
There can be no heaven without hell, no light without me. I am darkness.
Ridley Scott also directed the biblically entitled Kingdom of Heaven, a movie about war and conquest in the Holy Land starring our Archer of Middle-earth and our Qui-Gon Jinn from my Jinn post, Liam Neeson. Neeson can also be heard as the voice of Aslan, the Christ-like martyr figure and lion in the Oz and Alice in Wonderland-infused movie Narnia, or The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Minotaurs and pan-flute-playing satyrs are often seen in this film, which relies heavily on Greek mythology for its plot. It is likely that the demonized images of the incubus and even the horns and cloven hooves of Satan, as depicted in much Christian literature and art, were taken from the images of a highly sexual Pan. Despite the declaration of his death, however, Pan is widely worshipped by neo-pagans and Wiccans today, where he is considered a powerful deity and archetype of male virility and sexuality, called the Horned God. It has been suggested by Jake Kotze and others that when President George Bush was reading The Pet Goat in the elementary school when told about the 9/11 mega event taking place, that it was the beginning of a magical ritual and the invoking of Pan. So I think the film Pan's Labyrinth really ties this video all together. You have a Luciferian faun and keeper of occult knowledge leading an Alice in Wonderland-like young girl through a series of labyrinth-esque obstacles to earn her place as the queen of the underworld, or Agartha, or as I have suggested, Eden. In one test, she only has to stop herself from eating of the fruit of knowledge, but as a typical female, she shows her incompetence and naive qualities, and the resulting horror ensues. See you guys next time. The Jinn are said to be creatures with free will, made from the smokeless fire by God. History, as it seems, is not without a sense of irony. Starting from the beginning of myth and legend surrounding these beings, I believe the Anunnaki or Nephilim referred to by the Sumerians were the origin of these wish-granting creatures or demigods. The ancient Jinn had free choice, and Iblis exploited this in front of God by refusing to bow to Adam when ordered to do so. By refusing to obey God's order, he was thrown out of paradise and called Shaitan. At its simplest, Shaitan is the Arabic word for Satan. In the Quran, Jinn are frequently mentioned. In fact, it states that Muhammad was sent as the prophet to both humanity and the Jinn. Note Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn in Star Wars for a later reference. As we see President Bush conjuring up his favorite scapegoat genie, Bin Laden, it makes me wonder how he will pay for this in the end. Many stories about genies tend to follow the same vein as the famous short story The Monkey's Paw by W.W. Jacobs, with the overriding theme of be careful what you wish for. In these stories, wishes can have disastrous, horrific, and sometimes even fatal consequences. Often the genie causes harm to the loved ones or innocent people surrounding the wisher, making others pay for its master's greed or ignorance. Here we see the flying carpet phenomenon seen in the Mario Brothers game. See Jake Kotze's blog on other weird Mario metaphors. This phenomenon dates back as far as King Solomon and his flying men, on their chariots of fire. Solomon's mines are believed to be one possible entrance to Hollow Earth or Eden, the pyramids being another. So, who in the 21st century is most responsible for the magic lamp aesthetic? You guessed it, Walt Disney. In The Little Mermaid, you could see Ariel play with her magic lamp, one of her most prized possessions in her antique gallery. Then again, in DuckTales the movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp, what is it with these ducks being portrayed as Indiana Jones-like Ark Seekers? Weird stuff. And of course, most famously, the lamp could be seen in Disney's Aladdin. Aladdin's personality was reworked to be a little rougher, like a young Harrison Ford. The nemesis in the movie Jafar wears a long goatee, a pope hat, and almost is always depicted in flowing robes of black, dark red, and moody colors, similar to what Crowley or Anton LaVey might wear. Aladdin discovers an enormous subterranean entrance called the Cave of Wonders, the opening a great lion's mouth, again referencing both Hollow Earth and Indiana Jones. At the climax, Jafar becomes a genie and transforms himself into a giant Luciferian snake and tries to gain control of the entire universe with his new powers. But then he discovers that as a genie, he has no free will and is sucked up into a new lamp. If you remember, the Jinn are supposed to have free will. This is just one way the Illuminati shifts the definitions or meanings of a phenomenon over time. Another method they have used to overwrite the original meaning of the Jinn is with the chauvinistic advertising of the female sex slave as a genie giving in to your every desire. I don't think there's a better example than the TV show I Dream of Jeannie. The premise of the show was very simple. The show featured a beautiful woman who possessed magical powers and tried to integrate with the mortal world to please the man she loved. The strange part was that the man she loved was an astronaut, and the two actually met when Anthony Nelson found the genie bottle while escaping to a deserted island after a failed NASA mission. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were both 33-degree Freemasons, and they had a Masonic ceremony on the moon when they landed, taking pictures of each other holding the flag of the compass 33 minutes after they had been there. This is a strange tie-in to the genie sex slave phenomenon, Freemasonry, and NASA. Hypnosis. You're getting sleepy. You're getting very, very sleepy. A trance-like state in which a person becomes more aware and focused and is more open to suggestion. As Todd Campbell has researched in his Through the Looking Glass blog, The Mickey Mouse Club is a programming unit in Walt Disney World to produce Hollywood sex slaves and also to use those participants for later purposes via the corruption of the minds of the youth, especially young females. As these unstable Mickey Manchurian candidates run rampant on the heroin-like mainlines and static hiss algorithms of MTV and VH1, the programming and mind control then trickles down the ranks to a much wider audience than its original unaware participants, like the wacko-jacko-infused Justin Timberlake, the Marilyn Monroe-esque and genie in a bottle Christina Aguilera, and the hungover and shaved-headed Britney Spears, a serious case of hypnosis gone awry. This pedigree that was in the Mickey Mouse Club rose directly to the top, directly past go to collect their $200, well, in their case, $200 million. You don't get to the top without the sanction of the Illuminati, and that's why presidential candidates like Hillary Clinton are always seen going to the Bilderberg and Rockefeller conventions. They are being handpicked for their availability to be manipulated, hypnotized, and eventually mesmerized the unsuspecting public after having their training. And they are given the best of training. For instance, Bush and the Clintons were both given subliminal speech and gesture lessons by the world-renowned motivational speaker and illuminist, Tony Robbins. A Manchurian candidate is simply someone who is brainwashed and hypnotized to do a specific task, usually accompanied by some sort of trigger point or Pavlovian cue to set them off on their mission. Then, very much like a werewolf reconfigures into a human, or Bruce Banner wakes up after a night of carnage as the Hulk, they completely forget everything that had happened the night before, from the moment the cue was seen to waking. Frank Sinatra, who was in the original Manchurian candidate, was known to have dated Marilyn Monroe, or MM. Remember? Mickey Mouse? The circumstances around her death, as well as the Marilyn Monroe look-alike, Anna Nicole Smith, are hazy and shady to say the least. Once these sex slaves outstay their welcome, they are taken out like Tony Soprano would take out an Italian sub.
I don't know, this guy's dragged me down here.
Ah, JFK. Another Monroe sex slave benefactor. She sang him that sexy happy birthday song, remember? No, I'm not going to attempt it here. Can't really hit the high notes. It is theorized that Lee Harvey Oswald was a Manchurian candidate of sorts. There is speculation as to the training or torture they put these people through to make them commit such intense crimes without any conscious objection to them. Water torture, psychedelic drugs, and electrocution are some things that come to mind. Angela Lansbury used the Queen of Diamonds as her Pavlovian cue in the Manchurian candidate. The more modernly recognizable Queen of Diamonds and living Pavlovian cue is named Hillary Clinton, and she's already sporting some subliminal hypnotizing jewelry on the flap of her fancy man jackets. The Phoenix. Said to live for 500 to 1,000 years depending on the source, the Phoenix is a bird with beautiful gold and red plumage. At the end of its life cycle, the Phoenix builds itself a nest of cinnamon twigs that it then ignites. Both nest and bird burn fiercely and are reduced to ashes, from which a new young phoenix, or in this case the Antichrist, arises. In Jewish folklore, it is said that the phoenix was the only animal not to join Adam in his banishment from the Garden of Eden, much like the Jinn would have the free will to make that decision. Originally, the phoenix was identified by the Egyptians as a stork or heron-like bird called a bennu, known from the Book of the Dead and other Egyptian texts as one of the sacred symbols of worship at Heliopolis, closely associated with the rising sun and the Egyptian sun god Ra. One inspiration that has been suggested for the Egyptian phoenix is the flamingo of East Africa. To close, here's this bizarre tie-in with the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland, wielding the phoenix or Antichrist-inspired flamingo croquet mallet, which in turn represents the Angela Lansbury Queen of Diamonds Pavlovian cue, and another Antichrist superstar and MM, Marilyn Manson, who recently played the part of the Queen of Hearts in a Broadway-like performance. See you all next time.
I'm a genie in a bottle, baby. come on and let me out.
Happy Halloween, everyone. We begin with our national treasure Mason invoking Nicolas Cage summoning the hexagon Saturnian-laced fields of bees. Additional ending footage in the Wicker Man DVD actually has Cage being smothered with a basket full of bees. A ritual the pagans on the island use to make sure the gods are pleased and will bless them with a bountiful honey harvest for the season. The bees are seen yet again in the horror classic Candyman. Again, bees being a symbol of interdimensional communication between the physical and spiritual world. This is interchangeable with Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies. The locust or flying insect being strongly correlated with the devil, as they represent famine. The homeless man in Hellraiser who turns into a giant Luciferian dragon was seen earlier in the film covered in insects at a local pet shop, again referencing Beelzebub. A similar famine is overtaking Southern California right now as Skull and Bones Schwarzenegger fuels the plague of fire atop his sun god steeple. See Todd Campbell's Through the Looking Glass blog for more information. The Hellraiser cube, as we will investigate later in this video, is substituted for the octagonal Ark of the Covenant, the M-state monatomic gold superconductive Stargate that pharaohs of ancient Egypt ingested to feed their spirit or light bodies. Sleep those little slices of death, how I loathe them. In Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, we see our god of sleep and dreams, Lawrence Fishburne. As noted in my blog, the recent South Park episode features Morpheus alongside Freddy Krueger for the first time in 20 years. The albino vampiric twins seen in the Matrix sequel are representative of the caterpillar, or Tweedledee and Tweedledum in Alice in Wonderland, as they smoke from a similar type hookah, and lead Neo, or Alice, through a multitude of doorways leading to various gates or dimensions in the program. The twins are expressed numerous times in horror films. The third sign of the zodiac, Gemini, is ruled by Mercury, which represents intelligence invested in matter. The glyph symbolizes two pieces of wood bound together. In ancient times, this was seen to signify the conflicts arising from contradictory mental processes. Geminis establish their relationship because the self and material substance through a balance of opposing thoughts. This bond may also be interpreted as a link between rhythm and form.
Was about to enter the devilhood.
Look, what do you see? We are the undead, immortal.
The devil has sent me. Twins of evil.
In the macabre computer game Alice, we see the psychedelic experience gone horribly awry. The Lovecraftian checkerboard atmosphere and insane patrons you meet along the way acknowledge and reinforce the idea that looking for the bottom of the rabbit hole is not for the faint of heart. Learning said truths can lead to hallucination, mania, and amnesia. Scared yet? Keep telling yourself it isn't real as you tug viciously at your straitjacket belts and bounce aimlessly around your padded cell.
Supreme. These are the men they call the Brotherhood.
Seek out the devil worshippers by burning them!
The cast of Poltergeist is cursed. Several members of the cast died within a few years of being put in the films, including the young starlet Heather O'Rourke. As we see the checkerboard crop circle Jake Kotze has been investigating pop up in plain sight in Poltergeist 3, we are again reminded of Aldous Huxley's The Doors of Perception, Stargates, and Alice in Wonderland. We see the Alice in Wonderland motif again in Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses. In Captain Spaulding's Gas Bar Fast Food Museum of Horror, behind the cache on the wall are reproductions of Aleister Crowley's paintings of demonic figures, which were later discovered under whitewash in his former Abbey of Thelema in Italy. When Denise is lowered in Dr. Satan's lair, a tape player is also sent down and it keeps repeating a slowed-down version of Aleister Crowley's poem, The Poet, read by himself, found on a CD called The Great Beast Speaks, which is the only known recording of Crowley. The line from the poem that gets repeated over and over is, "Bury me in a nameless grave."
Wake up, wake up!
Alice falls through the water door, the Stargate of Illumination. Judas was the 13th guest at the Last Supper. The Knights Templar were arrested on Friday, October 13, 1307. Friday and the number 13 were both sacred to the Norse goddess Freyja, so Friday the 13th was especially sacred. Christians who wished to suppress her worship said the day was unlucky, and thus spread the propaganda from there.
There's no escape from the blind dead. They are the Templars, devil worshippers. A death cult that has risen from their 1,000-year-old tombs to begin a horrible reign of terror. The Templars perform their sadistic rites. A virgin is sacrificed in a blood ritual.
Charles Manson, leader of the Manson family, believed that the murderous activities of his followers would precipitate widespread black-white race wars and an Armageddon he called Helter Skelter, supposedly predicted in the Beatles' tune of that name. After which the family would emerge from their safe hiding place in the Mojave Desert and take over what remained of the United States, with Charles Manson as king. The first 5 murders occurred in a house high above the city of Los Angeles. A band of middle-class Manson followers broke into the home of filmmaker Roman Polanski and savagely murdered his pregnant wife, Sharon Tate, and 4 guests.
It can't be! No! Look at his hands and his feet! Oh, God!
God is dead!
Hail Satan!
Satan lives! The year is won!
Monatomic Gold, the lost secrets of the sacred ark, Stargate to the 4th dimension, the Ormus and the salvation of man. May we drink the sun. May the secrets of the Philosopher's Stone be given to man for the cup of light. An entrance and exit to the doorway of heaven and hell. Part the gates of oblivion and paint the glorious path and the salvation of man. May we drink the sun. May the secrets of the Philosopher's Stone be given to man from the cup of light. An entrance and exit to the doorway of heaven and hell. Part the gates of oblivion and paint the glorious path home. The serpent wisdom in octagonal form shall set the earth ablaze as it has never been before. I thought it would be fitting for my 7th video upload as well as the upcoming date, July 7, 2007, or 777, to talk a little bit about the concept behind this number, and how symbols of an ancient era now apply to materialistic concepts of today. Let us begin with Sin City herself, Las Vegas, Nevada. As we see Scrooge McDuck diving into his money bin, it's not hard for one to identify quite well with the concept of greed and materialism. In this world, money talks, and it can buy you sex, fine wine, power, and the freedom to live lavishly in any medium you so desire. The only problem is a very small majority of us get to be filthy rich, sans lottery winners and trust fund babies, so there lies in another way for the Illuminati to take its advantage of the situation. The Luxor is among the most recognizable hotels in the world because of its design. The main portion of the hotel is a 350-foot high, 30-story pyramid of black glass. The hotel is marked by a large obelisk with the name of the property in lighted letters, while tourists and guests gather underneath in a massive recreation of the Great Sphinx of Giza. The tip of the pyramid contains a fixed position spotlight that points directly upward, and it is the brightest beam in the world. This is a major ritualistic landmark and draws energy as well as currency from its guests. A mirage is a naturally occurring optical phenomenon in which light rays are bent to produce a displaced image of distant objects or the sky. In this case, the Illuminati are distorting your hopes of making a quick million by aesthetically trumping you with their apocalyptic lake of fire and easy-access slot machines. The Venetian Hotel is architecturally Vatican-inspired. With its Roman gondola reincarnation and elaborate Michelangelan ceiling art pieces, it is a money-draining enigma tied in fancy wrapping. The golden sphere of interlocking circles in the lobby of the Venetian looks strangely like the device Jodie Foster used to travel through the cosmos via a wormhole in the movie Contact. At a base level, it represents atomic structure and is designed to gather even more electromagnetic or orgone energy from passers-by via the usage of sacred geometry. The geometric figures like the 7-pointed star can be inscribed or conjured within the circle, much like a magician stays within a circle to protect himself from the consequences of casting. Here's an 8-pointed star with an interesting backstory. Legend tells of Francois Blanc supposedly bargaining with the devil to obtain the secrets of roulette. The legend is based on the fact that if you add up all the numbers on the roulette wheel from 1 to 36, the resulting total is 666, which is the number of the beast, of course. Modern playing cards are directly linked to the tarot, meaning of course that they were not originally just some clever system that would allow you and your buddies to play Texas Hold'em or Blackjack. Their origins have a specific occult history, interlaced with prophetic and divine wisdom used by the ancients to test the boundaries of space-time and to peer through the looking glass. The average go fish mentality of a civilian should show you just how symbol illiterate people have become. As we arrive again to the 8-pointed star in the desert, let us watch a clip of the great Hunter S. Thompson-inspired Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, a town not well suited for psychedelic drug usage due to its Disney-esque mind and wallet infiltration systems. As Johnny Depp states in the movie, this is exactly what would be going on if the Nazis had won World War II.
All the momentum. We were riding the crest of a high and beautiful wave. So now, less than 5 years later, you can go up on a steep hill in Las Vegas and look west. And with the right kind of eyes, you can almost see the high water mark. That place where the wave finally broke and rolled back.
Hunter S. Thompson predicted his murder would be labeled suicide. He'd been working on a story about the World Trade Center attacks and had stumbled across what he felt was hard evidence showing the towers had been brought down not by the airplanes that flew into them, but by explosive charges set off in their foundations. Now he thought someone was out to stop him publishing it. "They're gonna make it look like suicide," he said. "I know how these bastards think." And here we see Our Lady Liberty, or Queen of Babylon, on her strange 8-pointed primordial mound in New York City and in Vegas. Why not have two emanations of the eternal Luciferian flame? In Hollywood, Vegas has become synonymous with the mob and crime. Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci control the inflow and outflow of cash in the movie Casino. Tony Soprano enjoys vacationing there, dropping mescaline much like Johnny Depp does in Fear and Loathing, and playing a little roulette. But more famously, I think, is the Rat Pack phenomenon seen in films like Ocean's 11. The original Ocean's 11 features Frank Sinatra, seen in my Manchurian Candidate video, as well as the Church of Satan-loving Sammy Davis Jr., who was best of friends with the founder of the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey. Matt Damon stars alongside Danny Ocean, George Clooney in the remake of Ocean's 11. He was also in the tarot card-inspired poker movie Rounders. He played a Bond-like character in The Bourne Identity, and stranger still, he plays a Skull and Bones initiate, which is the same organization where George Bush Sr. was a member of and got the nickname Magog, a loose translation to Satan. Notice the 8-pointed Vegas star Damon is standing on, as well as his relationship to another Ark Seeker and Tomb Raider, Angelina Jolie. He's also set to make a film by director Paul Greengrass called Imperial Life in the Emerald City, a film with metaphors to the land of Oz, which is linked to Crowley and high magic, and the Iraq War. Greengrass also directed United 93, a film concerning the 9/11 event, where New York is referenced to look like the Emerald City before the World Trade Center buildings were collapsed. Crowley's book 777 and other Kabbalistic writings sheds another more occult meaning behind the number that your after-hours slot machine zombies might not be aware of. Simply put, 777 is a sacred number referring to the Tree of Life, known to the Sumerians and Egyptians in similar configurations. The serpent or occult knowledge hidden away in our DNA could be understood through magical practice, meditation, and the alchemical process. The Tree of Life in science describes the relationships of all life on Earth in an evolutionary context. And on a microbiological front, the neuroanatomical term Tree of Life describes the branching pattern between the cortical gray matter and the subcortical white matter of the cerebellum. These fractalated patterns in the flesh once again mimicking the psychedelic experience and the imprint our consciousness leaves interwoven in the fabric of space-time. A homogenation of experience that can never happen quite the exact way again in the universe. I leave you with the climatic scene in Aronofsky's The Fountain, in which Hugh Jackman drinks from the Tree of Life in his return to the Earth, his spirit cut from the amorphous coil, set on a path for discovery and rebirth. The aesthetics and metaphors in the Mario Bros. Franchise have enticed the young and malleable mind for decades, the main theme of which involves two brothers using stargates or wormholes to track down an ancient race of fire-breathing reptilians. And along the way they ingest powerful hallucinogenic mushrooms or mystical flowers to transform themselves into higher vibrational gods. They can shoot fireballs, grow in size, or fly through the clouds.
The gaming world's most iconic pair of characters, thus resonating Gemini, are the brothers Mario. When not eating magic mushrooms that enhance the Italian plumbing pair's abilities, they are frequently shown traversing stargates. The pop culture symbolic doorway of cosmic consciousness. John Leguizamo plays Luigi Mario and Bob Hoskins Mario in the 1993 Super Mario Bros., where they travel through the Stargate to the alternate dimension Manhattan, owned by the Double K King Koopa, actor Dennis Hopper.
On the 8th day of the 8th month of the 8th year of the 21st century, the number 8 appears in one of the fields of Wiltshire. The number 8 is a very meaningful number to the Chinese, who also held the inauguration of the Olympics on this sacred date. The sheer scale of this formation is a marvel to behold. Many people were walking amongst its circles in awe and wonder. The particle accelerator at CERN, which may reveal the actual makings of existence, heavily resonates with octagonal geometry, as well as the Freedom Tower, Mount Everest or K2, the Giza Pyramids, and of course the World Trade Center complex before it was destroyed. These gates, or stargates, even contain the number 8 within their pronunciation, thus adding to the significance. Michael Jai White is our Luciferian lieutenant in the film Spawn. Thanks to YouTuber CarlTong23, I've discovered that Mr. White also stars in The Dark Knight, where the Joker, Heath Ledger, aka the Clown, kills Michael Jai White's character Gamble, whereas in the movie Spawn, Michael Jai White kills our Luigi, John Leguizamo, the Clown. It seems the synchronicity of the Clown returning the favor has some very interesting correlations. Eddie Murphy's career contains a plethora of synchronicities. We begin with this small clip from The Adventures of Pluto Nash, where he aligns with the Magic 8-Ball wearing a B. Mario hexagon suit. Towards the end of the film, Spawn decapitates the Jester in his demonic form, known only as the Violator. We return to the theme of decapitated serpent heads corresponding with Galactic Center, and in this example it's even more profound as Spawn is severing the head of Luigi, our green-outfitted traveler of the Stargate and ingester of psychedelic compounds.
In Mulan, Eddie has become the embodiment of alignment with Cosmic Center by taking the shape of Mushu, the dragon. As dragon, he resonates the cube of space, highlighted by the hexagon. Mushu picks up the decapitated head of the stone dragon, resonating both the cube of space and the divine cuboid stones with added disembodied head as galactic center flavor. As a black star in The Golden Child, Eddie Murphy resonates the octagram heart, the pool of the black star, of Winnipeg's Golden Boy-topped legislature, a symbolic Solomon's Temple and galactic center.
During the opening celebration of the Beijing Olympics, the Chinese put on a dazzling spectacle where they symbolically played out their goal for a moon landing in the year 2028. They did this by dancing on a gigantic sphere at the center of a massive eye-shaped complex. The East has always been strongly pulled towards the concept of polarity, honor, and destiny. They also commonly use dragons and feathered serpents in their parades to honor the creator gods, and to propel and remind humanity of whence they came from and where they are headed. Speaking of heads, Eddie Murphy's is smack in the galactic center of his ghost-driven chariot in the Disney film The Haunted Mansion. For anyone familiar with the actual spectral-themed attraction at Walt Disney World, they'll recognize the all-seeing eye head in the crystal ball motif, as well as the severed stone head quartet and the Alice in Wonderland mirror themes throughout. The stone doppelganger heads mimic in cymatic harmony anything that the galactic center resonating Murphy has to say to them, thus fueling his frustration. There are of course some very interesting architectural geometries at the Magic Kingdom and Epcot Center, such as the great tetrahedral sphere known as Spaceship Earth, a gigantic lake or galactic mouth, and perhaps the only building in the world created to mimic a capless pyramid from a bird's eye perspective. One of the most obvious examples of decapitation being correlated to Galactic Center and the Serpent is in Conan the Barbarian, as Sun God Schwarzenegger decapitates Darth Vader, or James Earl Jones, between the twin pillars of the Temple of Set. Will Smith again makes his way into the synchromistic fray in the film Wild Wild West, where he and his co-star Kevin Kline, another 2K resonator, are fitted with magnetic collars, as flying razor blades are sent to decapitate them in fields of crop circle wheat. As pointed out over at Jake's site, The Blob, the poster for said movie is almost the mirror image for the Mario Brothers poster, procuring more texture for the elaborately matted webbing of the synchrosphere.
The Gemini or yin-yang decorated chariot of Tommy Two-Face Lee Jones smashes into the head of Isis Liberty in Batman Forever. This singular scene then evoking the entire Dragon Ascension axes with Yin-Yang Gemini as galactic anti-center and Gotham Statue of Liberty as galactic center, highlighted with explosive energy at the crown chakra halo of Isis. Hellboy scales the tri-pillared E, flipping to reveal it as also 3, the octagonal O, and the 8th letter of the alphabet H. The H unveils its association to divinity by appearing twice in the names of God as Tetragrammaton and Thoth. The Gemini resonating Men in Black 2 with Tommy Two-Face Lee Jones and Will 2K Smith sees our heroes battling giant Kundalini serpents or dragon axes above Manhattan Island pillars, echoing the 9/11 mega-ritual Stargate opening. A most vivid reenactment of the first part of the Ascension axes formed by 9/11 and 2012. 9/11 being in Gemini, the twins or galactic anti-center, and 2012 being in Sagittarius or galactic center.
Randy Quaid is perhaps most famous for his role alongside Will Smith in the film Independence Day. In his moment of truth, he flies his fighter plane directly into the center of the octagonal alien starship's quantum flux laser weapon, thus reversing its polarity and sending the huge disc ablaze as it rockets onto the ground. As we return to the adventures of Pluto Nash, we see Eddie Murphy counting money that has Hillary Clinton's staunch mug on all the bills. A tad strange considering she hadn't announced any plans for running for the presidency when the film came out. An interesting possible timeline considering the presidency is dictated by a sacred bloodline and not by the power of your vote. Murphy, in an attempt to save his life, is forced to travel to a remote octagonal domed base on the dark side of the moon, with his love interest and Princess of the Stars in Men in Black 2, Rosario Dawson. He's also accompanied by his cybernetic bodyguard, Randy Quaid. The door to the compound clearly reads Mascon, one letter shy of Mason, as in Freemason, and the number 8 as in Gate can be seen printed on just about every facet of the outside wall. Murphy just recently played an alien in the film Meet Dave, where he smashes head first next to the Eternal Flame, the Statue of Liberty.
In 1983's Trading Places, Eddie Murphy, the Black Star or Dragon Axes, and Dan Aykroyd exit a classic taxi chariot of the gods at the plaza of the Twin Pillars or Gemini Galactic Anti-Center. They enter the World Trade Center pyramids only to interact with the Great Circle Dot Stargate of Time, or Clockface, its arms highlighting 9/11.
Dan Aykroyd and Sigourney Weaver, as seen in Ghostbusters, also strongly resonate with the Tower Gate or Portal of Cosmic Consciousness, the Twin Pyramids, and the ancient alien astronauts, with his role in Coneheads and her role in the classic Giger-inspired Aliens. Aykroyd is also an avid UFO researcher and is notorious for speaking openly about his opinion that we are not alone in the universe. As lightning strikes the tower and the twin dog guardians jump through the interdimensional portal, a pyramid is clearly seen before Gozer manifests into her female form. The Ghostbusters, of which Aykroyd specifically wrote in a part for Eddie Murphy and was declined, cross the streams of their particle weapons to close the gate once and for all. In a similar turn of events, the evil reptilian Emperor Bowser has his gateway to the center of the galaxy closed by the twin-resonating Mario Brothers, and the universe is destroyed and reborn again, even more glorious and full of light than it ever had been before. In the sequel to Ghostbusters, the gang animates the Statue of Liberty, igniting her once dormant flame, and takes her for a stroll through the waters of the Aquarius-resonating Atlantic, using her energy to manifest a beacon of hope to the populace of the Tracing Board Mound, the people of New York City. In the book Apples of Apollo, the mushroom is identified in a wide range of mythological tales, such as those involving Perseus, Prometheus, Hercules, Jason and the Argonauts, Jesus, and the Holy Grail. The notion that Nordic Vikings used Amanita muscaria to produce their berserker rages was first suggested by the Swedish professor Samuel Aldman in 1784. Fly agarics appear on Christmas cards and New Year's cards from around the world as a symbol of good luck. They also function as Christmas tree decorations derived from their etymycorrhizal relationship with carnivorous trees. The ethnobiologist Jonathan Ott has suggested that the idea of Santa Claus and tradition of hanging stockings over the fireplace is based centrally upon the fly agaric mushroom itself. With its generally red and white color scheme, he argues that Santa Claus's suit is related to the mushroom. He also draws parallels with flying reindeer. Reindeer are said to enjoy the mushroom because of its euphoric results, and therefore prance around in its hallucinogenic after effect. And here we see another tie to Hollow Earth and the Amanita muscaria mushroom in A Journey to the Center of the Earth, a translation of the classic 1864 science fiction novel by Jules Verne. The second sun burns fiercely in the Sci-Fi Channel's new Oz series, Tin Man. There are numerous representations of the psychedelic mushroom via the blue symbolism of the Hindu gods, as well as pitting the Wicked Witch herself directly upon a Tesseract Hypercube stage, as she attempts to banish the land of Oz to eternal darkness, atop her citadel to the fourth dimension. When Dorothy first bursts into her Technicolor wonderland, she is greeted by the Lollipop Gang, who whimsically sing her their introductory tune atop a spiral Stargate. Adam from A Cosmic Cube, Todd Campbell from Through the Looking Glass, and Jake from A Brave New World Order have led me into another rabbit hole looking at the symbolism behind our most infectious confectionery treats, leading me on another tangent to the sacred owl of Babylon and beyond. The Wicked Witch of the West opens her Stargate as the double suns eclipse for the first time in thousands of years. Stellar alignments in fiction imitating our reality as 2012 draws near. The great Alan Cumming, our blue mushroom-invoking Nightcrawler from the X-Men series, plays the brainless Scarecrow in Tin Man. David Bowie pops up more and more as we see the inspiration for the glass magic spheres he used in the movie Labyrinth here in The Wizard of Oz, as well as the world's oldest bubble in his role as the King of Atlantis in the latest SpongeBob cartoon. More Bowie madness later on. The classic 80s commercial for the Tootsie Pop features the symbolic Owl of Babylon asking the question, how many licks does it take to get to the center? Even our sugary snacks seem to indicate life at the center of things. The sperm and the egg, the apple seed, and even perhaps Hollow Earth. The owl comes up with a sacred number 3 as the amount of licks it takes to get to the center. That will show up again in Clash of the Titans as we move on. A golden robotic owl is sent down from Olympus, the kingdom of the gods, to aid in Perseus' quest to defeat the Kraken, the last of the Titans, a reference to a race of monsters that predated the gods. He visits the 3 Stygian witches, again we see the owl and the sacred number 3, who are blind magical adepts who disclose the only hope of survival in combat against the Kraken is by using the head of another monster, Medusa of the Gorgons. Their domain is similar to the Dome of the Rock, its entranceway marked by a Washington-like obelisk. The golden monatomic owl of the gods then snatches their all-seeing eye. Quite a plethora of metaphorical synchronicity.
Google the eye! Go for the eye!
What's wrong? It's gone! The eye! The eye! Drop the eye! Oh no! Where's the eye? You have it!
Never fear! It is safe.
Give it to us. Give it back.
On one condition.
Anything. But we must have it now.
You will have it. After you have answered my question.
In the latest Harry Potter movie, the symbolism of the owl is taken to an even more sinister level. The new defense against the dark arts teacher at Hogwarts is Dolores Umbridge, a hostile ministry official who presided at Harry's hearing. Umbridge is there to spy on the school and only teaches ministry-approved theory rather than practical defense methods. She is soon appointed as High Inquisitor, arbitrarily imposing strict rules and regulations. A less fictional witch and satanic priestess, Hillary Clinton, may be appointed a similar position in the US government. Fiction imitates reality once again, a little uncomfortably. Maggie Smith, who plays Professor McGonagall in Harry Potter, also plays Thetis in The Clash of the Titans. Perhaps my favorite line of dialogue in that film belongs to her, especially coming from a fictional god. She states in relation to Perseus, "What a dangerous precedent. What if there were more heroes like him? What if courage and the imagination became everyday mortal qualities? What would become of us?" We see more owl symbolism from the Masonic kings at Disney, in The Sword in the Stone. The owl is Merlin's assistant named Archimedes, who in real life was an extremely gifted mathematician and scientist, who is claimed to have sunk a ship from hundreds of yards out using only reflective glass to focus the sun's rays on it. So the symbolism here is the association with the symbol of the owl, magical practice, and the sun. Why do we allow tyrants to run this world, when together we are so very powerful and capable of reinventing this living earth into a utopia? Why do we work against the cosmos instead of for it? Does the material world need to be completely taken from us in a fiery Armageddon before we realize we are more than these physical bodies? That we are beings of pure light? Sovereignty in the flesh. The Bohemian Grove is a private 2,700-acre redwood retreat on the Russian River in Sonoma County, California. Described as the greatest men's party on Earth, the members of the Bohemian Club and international elites have been gathering in the redwoods for over 100 years. Regular visitors include the Bushes, Henry Kissinger, Colin Powell, Newt Gingrich, while past luminaries have included former Presidents Reagan and Nixon, together before they had even taken office. The most famous ritual that occurs at the Grove every year is the symbolic pagan worship of Moloch, the god of child sacrifice. A bound effigy is burned in a cremation of care ceremony under a 40-foot stone owl. This ritual to Moloch is mocked in the animated series Lucy, the Daughter of the Devil, which follows a 21-year-old Lucy who lives in San Francisco and has been tapped by her father to fulfill her destiny as the Antichrist, whether she likes it or not. Along the way, she meets up with DJ Jesus, who turns out to be the second coming of the Messiah, and the two develop feelings for one another. The ancient owl of Babylon on the Washington lawn. Thank you, Todd Campbell, for pointing out the even deeper Wizard of Oz Bowie connections, as he is in the film Zoolander, which edited the 9/11 towers out of the film and holds the word Oz in its title. Bowie also named his daughter Zoe, another play to Oz, I believe, and of course, he was the owl or representation of Moloch here in Labyrinth. Take care, my friends. Until next time.
You're reminding me of the babe. Babe with the power. What power? Power of voodoo. You do. Remind me of the babe.
The city of Rome was originally known as Saturnia, or City of Saturn. The Roman Catholic Church retains much of its Saturn worship in its ritual. Saturn also relates to Lucifer. As we see here in Ultraviolet, the young boy hybrid between the vampires and humans is named Six, the sixth planet of the solar system. There is just too much hexagon imagery in this film. Thanks to George Cush for bringing that to my attention. And as Jake and I have shown, the hexagon directly relates to Saturn, as it has 6 sides and there is a gigantic hexagon storm at Saturn's pole. It's no wonder then the yet-to-be-released Mario Galaxy would be riddled with hexagons and bee imagery. Mila Jovovich stars in at least 6 films revolving around her own genetic manipulation. In the Resident Evil series, she is known as Alice, a nudge to Wonderland, I suppose. As we see her riding a motorcycle through Triforce-laced pyramids, reminiscent of the Louvre in Paris, the 9/11 mega ritual is again invoked as we see more helicopter explosions over Giza's symbolism. Fertility cults based on using the sacred mushrooms, Amanita muscaria, and psilocybe variants as a gateway to divine understanding was at the root of many religions, including Christianity. The mushroom was seen as a symbol of God on earth, but because mushroom lore was secret, it had to be written down in the form of codes hidden in folk tales. This is the basic origin of the stories of the New Testament. They were a literary device to spread the rites of mushroom worship to the faithful. The stories of the Gospel and Acts were a deliberate hoax. Through studying Sumerian cuneiform texts which go back to 3500 BC, we can trace the proper names and words used in the Bible back to their original meanings. We see even more blimp DNA manipulation and ascension symbolism in Aeon Flux, the trademark image of the series being a fly caught on Aeon's eyelash. This is strong Venus symbolism, as we will later see. Resident Evil, Ultraviolet, and Aeon Flux incorporate the viral annihilation of humans to some degree. One of the more prominent plot lines of today's sci-fi films. I wonder why that could be. Maybe the best South Park of all time aired this week. New World Order on YouTube recently wrote about it in his Illuminati blog. The episode was concerning the terrorists taking over our imagination. As the boys travel to Imagination Land via a sun-covered Zeppelin craft, they are greeted by such lovable characters as Count Chocula, Pan, Anubis, the Bee, Schnarf from Thundercats, Magic Mushrooms, Ronald McDonald, Decapitated Care Bears, and a talking hammer, just to name a few. Trey Parker and Matt Stone have an incredibly sharp pop culture wit about them. When they started making fun of Michael Bay, I nearly shot soda out of my nose. The psilocybin-inspired characters, the Blue Meanies, and Vishnu can be clearly seen in this episode. In Gilliam's Baron Munchausen, the Ascension Blimp Zeppelin is seen yet again, as they travel to visit the King of the Moon to see another psilocybe Blue Meanie, Robin Williams, who did the voiceover for the Indigo Genie in Aladdin. It's interesting that the intro screen for all major film companies have such strong symbolism. You have the MGM Lion, Lionsgate Films, the TriStar Pegasus, and the Paramount Mountain encircled by stars, or pentagrams, to name a few. I think our alleged masters skipped subtlety class in college. We drift away in a sea of shadow, beyond the vast ocean of the psychedelic experience and into the many serpent-crowned wisdom of the Blue Goddess, the Blue Lotus which bars the dam to all creation.
You'll find that I'm one of the king's special favorites.
Very insignificant part of my domain now. There is so much more.
My old friend, I don't think you quite realize what you've got here. So why don't you just ruminate whilst I illuminate the possibilities?
The cinquefoil is a five-petaled rose found in Christian symbolism of the Middle Ages. The five-petaled rose is often found affixed to the tops of Gothic arches. The Vesica Pisces-shaped doorways and windows thought to represent the womb of Mary. The symbol itself dates back to Roman times, where it was called the Rose of Venus. The rose, with its characteristic five-petaled shape, mimicked the pentagrammic path traced by the planet Venus in the night sky. Uma Thurman resonates the goddess in many of her movie roles, as Poison Ivy in Batman and controller of weather and nature's forces in Paycheck and Avengers. In Pulp Fiction, she references the cube and that she belonged to a superhero team known as L7, which makes, of course, a square, and references the square before entering the White Rabbit Jack Slims with Saturnian Night Fever, Travolta.
Little friend over there, Sully. Old. This is Venus, the goddess.
We see the Blue Goddess and the Bee together in more than just the South Park episode, as we see in The Fifth Element. Chris Tucker's eccentric character constantly making the bee buzz sound, and the Messiah Cube housing Blue Diva pointed out to me by Adam over at the Cosmic Cube, singing in front of our tower terrorist fighting Bruce Willis. We find that love is the fifth element after all, tying Venus, the magic mushroom, the pentagram, and the Blue Goddess, all together in a blissful sea of synchromistic poetry.
I found it.
Witness confirmed. The Dark Planet, dead.
As Adam Parfrey states in Apocalypse Culture, Captain EO, a new attraction at Disneyland, a special 3D musical made by Francis Ford Coppola and George Lucas. Captain means someone in charge, and EO means light. So Michael Jackson plays Captain of the Light, and that is exactly what Lucifer was. Lucifer was known as the Light Bearer. As Captain EO, he has fire coming out of his fingertips, and he changes the world from bad to good, which is exactly what the Messiah was supposed to do. Yet another Luciferic icon shooting electrical hate from his fingertips is Christopher Lee. Famous for his portrayal of Dracula and Lord Summerisle in the original Wicker Man, he also played the evil Sith Lord Count Dooku in George Lucas's Star Wars, the Dark Wizard Saruman in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and co-starred alongside Johnny Depp, who we'll talk about a little bit later, as Willy Wonka's psychotic father. The strange space-time tie-in with Lee has to do with the actor who would eventually play his role in the remake of The Wicker Man, Nicolas Cage. And whether Lee realizes he is a villainous pawn on a chessboard of an Illuminati stronghold or not, he certainly embodies the fear of the fallen angel they wish to use aesthetically in their films and propaganda. The pagan imagery in The Wicker Man alone is enough to question its foundation. Stanley Kubrick was murdered 666 days before the start of 2001. The title of his famous 2001 A Space Odyssey is just one clue. The Illuminati hold numbers and numerology sacred. The number 33, for instance, is a major witchcraft number. It is rumored that David Koresh, Timothy McVeigh, and Jesus of Nazareth were killed at the age of 33 by self-styled governmental authorities. The number 33 can be decoded from the movie 2001 because the movie was first shown in 1968, which is 33 years before the year 2001.
I'm sorry, I seem to have forgotten it.
That's unfortunate. Because here, it doesn't matter whether you have forgotten it, or if you never knew it. You will kindly remove your mask.
The movie Rosemary's Baby was filmed in the Dakota building where John Lennon was shot to death. It also appears that John Lennon knew the director Roman Polanski, also the director of The Ninth Gate, personally. Did this nobody director make a pact with the Hollywood Coven in order that he be given a very choice script? So what is the price for fame in this underworld? It is the killing of your baby. This fact is even stressed in the movie. The Coven in the movie demand Rosemary's Baby in return for her husband's success and Hollywood fame. It was an amazing coincidence that the film had a plot that would be similarly played out a year later, when Polanski's pregnant wife, Sharon Tate, would be murdered by Charles Manson's followers. It's also interesting to note that Anton LaVey made a cameo in Rosemary's Baby. I've noticed the Illuminati's persistence in using Nicolas Cage as their go-to guy when it comes to Hollywood film. Whether he's stealing the Declaration of Independence and searching for the lost Masonic treasure of Alexandria in Walt Disney's National Treasure, playing the hero in the retarded rendition of the September 11th mega ritual in World Trade Center, playing the Bush-like Lord of War arms dealer to the Middle East, being burned alive in an effigy to the pagan gods in the remake of The Wicker Man, much like the high-ups in our own government have their mock effigy in Bohemian Grove that Alex Jones so boldly captured, portraying the Archer and Weatherman, or having psychedelic encounters with the kind fairy of Oz in Wild at Heart. Cage even goes so far as to share the same coven mistress with Wacko Jacko. That's right, the offspring of the king himself, Ms. Presley. Cage's co-star in Gone in 60 Seconds, Angelina Jolie, along with being a tigress in the sack, plays an Indiana Jones-like Ark-seeker in Tomb Raider. Her father, another Illuminati favorite, John Voight, was a national treasure alongside Cage. The new James Bond actor Daniel Craig plays alongside Jolie in Tomb Raider. A little backstory in the whole 007 phenomenon. Remember how I mentioned the Illuminati's passion for numbers? John Dee, chief officer and advisor to Queen Elizabeth in the 1500s, was a very special secret agent indeed. Dee signed his letters with 2 circles symbolizing his own 2 eyes and indicating that he was the secret eyes of the Queen. The 2 circles are guarded by what may be considered a square root sign or an elongated 7. For Dee, 7 was a sacred Kabbalistic and lucky number. Dee has been defamed through the centuries as a necromancer, but it's the opinion of many writers that his angelic, Kabbalistic, alchemical work, his Philosopher's Stone, the Monad Hieroglyphia 1564, may have been a cover for covert operations carried on in the name of Her Majesty. Now we see the suave Sean Connery, who proudly wore the crown of 007 for a time, alongside another George Lucas and Illuminati Ark-seeker and Bond-like character, Harrison Ford. The rolling boulder motif in the Temple of Doom, as well as Disney theme park reenactments of the stunt, have several metaphors incorporated into them. First, in Fight Club, Project Mayhem causes a similar spherical object to destroy a nearby Starbucks. Later in that same film, it ends with the collapse of towers which emulate the 9/11 event. These spheres could be found at Mecca, the Vatican, the World Trade Center, and George Lucas's Death Star, of all places. Here we see Michael Jackson taking the place of Tom Cruise next to Popra, and then a picture of his face in the middle of an Atlantean Stargate. He is notorious for spending tens of thousands of dollars in a hyperbaric sleep chamber so as to slow the aging process down, or even give him a sense of being suspended in eternal youth, much like Peter Pan. Walt Disney had similar preservation goals, as he was the first person in history to have ever been cryogenically frozen. Are these guys aliens or what? And the whole Nicolas Cage being obsessed with Elvis and the Presley wife swapping between those 2 Illuminati gremlins is so strange I can't even really believe it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for your viewing and audio pleasure, over 10 seconds of Nicolas Cage screaming in agony as he burns in the Wicker Man structure. It doesn't get any better than this. And the light of Lucifer paints their path with the subtle glow of the abyss, and the 8-pointed star shines at the doorway of dreams and of eternal sovereignty in all the layers of the kingdom of hell. The Serpent ensnared towers shall reveal all of their power. A fork-tongued intrusion developed through colorful illusion. The Black Pyramid of Doom has you moving to its tune. A dim-witted population losing their power in their hesitation to stand up and take back their spirit's destination. G.I. Joe. Heavy Egyptian symbolism and set worship infiltrating the young mind once again, as Cobra Commander, puppet master of the Serpent race, devises a scheme to activate cubes of energy around the four corners of the Earth to create
the Pyramid of Darkness,
completely disabling the military and electrical grids across the entire planet.
When these control cubes are placed at each of the four corners of the Earth, they will link with the space station to form this pyramid, beneath which no electrical energy source will function.
Without energy to power its vehicles and factories or run its military and defense systems, the world will crumble beneath our heel.
The first control cube is almost completed, and when it and its duplicates are in position, Cobra shall rule forever.
Keeping in mind Jake Kotze's research from A Brave New World Order, which has undeniably shown the connections between the pyramids at Giza and the 9/11 ritual, it's eerie to see the pyramid motif in this episode, as well as the Crimson Twins' Enterprise towers, with Serpent planes becoming engulfed into them and being collapsed to reveal a Stargate-traveling rocket housed in the South Tower. These images have never left the subconscious of the 80s generation, and I feel they were a general precursor for the World Trade Center event to be readily accepted upon its completion.
From the east.
I'll go in from the west and we'll squeeze him in the middle.
As Nancy Leiter from Zeta Talk often mentions, the puppet master we see here as Cobra Commander is atop the hierarchy of compartmentalization, a faceless enemy and most powerful member of the Illuminati.
Forms will perish.
The cubes of power are also strongly referenced in the new Transformers movie, which I will elaborate a little more on in my next video. And here a 9/11 helicopter is grounded by the unstoppable force of the Black Pyramid. The Temple of Set was established in 1975 by Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino and certain members of the priesthood of the Church of Satan who left because of administrative and philosophical disagreements with Anton LaVey. Set is an Egyptian god of chaos who embodied the principle of hostility, if not of outright evil. He was associated with foreign lands and was the adversary of the god Osiris. Aquino was accused of satanic rituals involving children and sex magic, under the military ruse definition as monarch programming, which involves traumatizing the victim in order to create multiple personalities, aka a Manchurian candidate. Not only did this pedophile ring lead to the top echelons of the Republican Party, it also led to the top of the Bush administration and possibly George Bush Sr. himself. In the Silent Hill universe, the Black Pyramid is seen again on the character Pyramid Head. He sometimes wears a red hood and ceremonial robes and resembles Set, with scarabs and the plagues of Egypt being a precursor to his arrival. He was born out of the townspeople's idolatrous ideologies and may also represent the Angel of Death, or it could be viewed as Cain, a wandering Abrahamic god. The pyramid on his head a possible stargate to the subconscious and reference to the psychedelic experience. It's also interesting to note the heavy saturation of Samael in the video game. Samael is an important archangel in Talmudic and post-Talmudic lore, a figure who is accuser, seducer, and destroyer. He has been regarded as both good and evil. In rabbinic lore, he is identified as the chief of Satans and the angel of death. In the Secrets of Enoch, he is the prince of demons and a magician. He was a guardian angel of Esau and a patron of the sinful empire of Rome. Samael is usually considered to be the true angelic name of Satan. The lion's paw in Freemasonry has great importance, as in the Hiram Abith allegory. In this story, Solomon uses the Master Mason's grip of the lion's paw to resurrect Hiram from the dead, which is symbolic of Hiram shedding his old life and waking up anew in his new understanding of the world, a baptism of sorts. This story is used in the initiation of Masonic members when they achieve the higher levels of Freemasonry. It also echoes similar characteristics of the Osiris resurrection story of ancient Egypt. Remember, Osiris is the adversary of Set. The lion's paw and the Sphinx are symbolically the same, as you see on Lion-O's paw, the 3 stars in Orion's belt which the pyramids are aligned to. In the first episode of Thundercats entitled Exodus, we see Lion-O and his Abrahamic-like cast-out community make the Third Earth their new home, where they are greeted by psychedelic mushroom-eating robotic bears, their old enemies the reptoids, monkey men, and jackal men, and of course the dual serpent-entwined Mum-Ra, the ever-living, whose name alone represents the Egyptian sun god Ra, not to mention his living quarters, an enormous black pyramid surrounded by 4 monolithic black Washington memorials that shoot lightning to the center of the pyramid, where the great Mum-Ra calls upon the ancient serpent races of the past to tap into unlimited supply of energetic evil. As Mum-Ra the sun god flies towards the red Nibiruan cube gate, I want to reiterate the parallels between the King's Chamber in Egypt, the pyramid, and the cube. In Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, the gateway to hell is purchased at a boutique called the Black Pyramid. The cube itself is an enigma as it represents the core of the tetrahedron. One of the most astonishing discoveries I've made in my research is that if you place sacred geometry within a sphere such as Earth, the points where the tetrahedron breach the surface of the planet are usually accompanied by volcanic activity and irregular magnetic anomalies, such as the Bermuda Triangle. In the Marvel Universe, we see the Black Pyramid yet again in Thor episode 397. Once serving as a stronghold for the Egyptian god of death, Set, the Black Pyramid also held the secret behind Set's power. A place of evil and torment, the Black Pyramid became a temporary prison to some of the most powerful beings in the universe, such as the mighty Thor. It was completely destroyed, however, when Surtur picked up and hurled the already damaged pyramid at the magnetically empowered Thor. Our collective third eye is just that sort of power. United we shall topple the serpent pyramid of darkness.
Hey, Lion-O, what's going on?
I'm not sure, Chitara, but I've got a bad feeling Mum-Ra's up to something.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna use the John.
Eye of Thundera, give me sight beyond sight.
Lion-O, what are you doing? Snarf, snarf!
Oh, hey, not much. You want to get wasted or something?
Our unified eyes bleed systemic skies, an intergalactic metamorphical sunrise. Entangled in the webbing of the multiverse, where reality breaks from a pale green to prismatic fountain. An undulation of sacred geometry linking us to every star and energetic vortex in the universe. Project Lucifer. Galileo, a plutonium-carrying RTG, dives into Jupiter at the equator. As was likely expected, nothing happens. Then, 4 weeks later, October 19, 2003, Olivier Meekers images a mystery spot the size of Earth with a streak trailing away near the equator of Jupiter. All other professional telescopes ignore the spot. Richard C. Hoagland publishes a report detailing the entire amazing scenario, showing that the mystery spot is most likely Galileo's plutonium that had drifted down 700 miles into Jupiter's atmosphere. A gas giant planet with a nearly identical composition to our Sun, 82% hydrogen, 18% helium. So why are we launching nuclear material into such a volatile and alien environment? To ignite a gas giant planet in hopes of setting off a fission reaction to create a second sun. With possible references to Nibiru, the apocalypse, and the Mayan prophecy of 2012, they wish to see a morning star in the night sky and Luciferian beacon. Why? Because they want to see if God or gods part the heavens to stop them. Because they are driven by ego and self-deification. There are a few people in the world who, with endless imagination and creativity, in union with massive resources and high technology, have been playing God and secretly experimenting with changing the makeup of our solar system. There are not too many plans conceived that could be greater than creating a new star in our own backyard. One could almost claim godship upon success. Jupiter obviously didn't go nova. It left a Shoemaker-Levy Earth-sized explosion, but that's where the chaos ended. Their next target, however, on July 7, 2008, or 7/7, the Cassini spacecraft observer carrying twice the payload of plutonium will be crashed directly through the hexagon formation and Agartha opening at the North Pole of Saturn. And if they were to succeed in this endeavor, and Saturn becomes unstable, the Earth's ozone layer would become severely disabled. Radiation would funnel in waves of dramatic energy storms, killing millions on the planet. Unless, of course, you had the resources and access to some kind of underground bunker. The potential star's name was first dubbed Lucifer by A.C. Clarke in his novel 2010. As you saw at the beginning of my video, Jupiter is shown with a gigantic implosion on its surface, so the film becomes mysteriously a precursor and ominous warning mechanism about events that may truly come to pass. Stanley Kubrick's association with the first film in the series, 2001, doesn't make me feel any better about this. Lucifer is less of an actual deity and more of a concept representation of several ideas. Lucifer, literally meaning light bearer, represents rebellion, claiming godship, bringing enlightenment, and mastering knowledge. Lucifer is a symbol of casting off the overlord and trusting the light from within, the concept of breaking out of the subservient shell of God's dominion, and claiming the universe as one's own to conquer. The giant hexagon on Saturn's North Pole is a cymatic response and an electromagnetic fourth-dimensional intelligence, seen in representations of the atom, snowflake, and our ever-fleeing honeybee hives. We have not found this phenomenon on any other planetary body ever explored. If you're familiar with Hollow Earth theory, these aurora points at the north and south poles of planets may lead to an inner world within, where intelligent beings may live to shield themselves from the radiation of our sun. Certainly scientists will at least admit they have no current explanation for the phenomenon. But those psychonauts who have peered through the looking glass on psychedelics may have a little better insight into what the hexagon actually represents. Here is some monatomic silver in a hexagon formation seen magnetized many times. Egyptian pharaohs used to eat this along with monatomic gold in large amounts, and some say it enabled them their godlike lifespans. Well, for the period anyway, being as most people never saw 40. And another silver hexagon-infused Saturnian surfer who recently popped his head up in Hollywood. Notice the hexagons on Galactus's belt, the surfer's godlike creator and most powerful being in the cosmos. In the new Fantastic Four movie, the Silver Surfer could be seen disturbing the rings of Saturn, causing havoc near the Sphinx and pyramids, being chased by the Eternal Flame past the Occult Pillar, the Washington Monument, ascending from water vortices near the Illuminati-constructed London Eye Observatory, dodging nuclear missiles, and creating liquid stargates or water doors through the Empire State Building. Another interesting thing to note is that Lawrence Fishburne, our Alice in Wonderland wormhole navigator in The Matrix, is the voice of the Hexagon Stargate Traveler, the Silver Surfer, a role he also played in Event Horizon.
All that you know is at an end.
The London Eye, also called the Millennium Wheel, is an Illuminati vampiric beacon complete with its Masonic compass, highlighted in the Surfer film. Okay guys, here's where it starts to get a little strange as we look at episode 2 of the Silver Surfer animated series. Our Saturnian traveler and cosmic hexagon god of monatomic silver is bombarded with the hexagon aesthetic once again. Traveling through wormholes that lead to hexagon star formations, a planet being destroyed by hexagons, and eventually having to penetrate a force field made up entirely of, yep, you guessed it, more hexagons. See if you can count them all.
My good wishes to Zeno. But where is it, Master? Don't leave us! The Master, working with the Kree? He and I must unite. Of course, that is possible only if I can reach him.
Ambrosia, the element of the gods, the neural lubricator, the mental transformer and pathway, fruit of the gods, held in as high esteem as the psychedelic Amanita mushroom. Returning to Saturn and its pulsating auroras around the polar regions, I don't hesitate when I state I believe this phenomenon is a product of radiation from an inner sun, an inner intelligence, not from some solar flare speculation cited in textbooks and undereducated professors. Here's a bizarre dual vortice expressway to Hollow Earth Venus at its southern entrance. Rarely talked about, of course. And this is the prototype for the Aurora hypersonic aircraft that I'm sure looks like a fossil compared to what the black budget space program has today.
You can tell them when we were alone, when we couldn't point to the light and say to ourselves, there is life out there. Someday, the children of the new sun will meet the children of the old. I think they will be our friends. You can tell your children of the day when everyone looked up and realized that we were only tenants of this world. We have been given a new lease and a warning from the landlord.
Look towards the west, to the second sun. A furnace burns where once was none. The organic hexagon temple has been summoned via the telepathy of the unified consciousness. We melt into the shifting holograms of Oblivion as the first light of the new eon dawns upon us. The rays penetrate into translucent cymatic frequencies that guide the cogs and spirals of time. In an endless black ocean of the known vibration through the hallways of always and the midnight of dreamscapes.
We found it! We found it! We found it! Wait for more here! We found it!
Bavaria, just beyond the hills.
Hitler believed that the original Aryan race migrated from a polar Hyperborea, following a solar religion dominated by the warrior ethos and the conquering spirit. A more aberrant view of Nazi occultism comes from Miguel Serrano, a Chilean diplomat and author. His work on Hitler describes a cosmic struggle between the order of Nazis who are currently located in a hidden base in Antarctica against the demiurge, Judaism, Christianity, and Freemasonry. The deliverance of the Aryan race will come when Nazi flying saucers emanate from Antarctica and take over the world. Many theories have also circulated about a possible hole at the poles, where adventurers could gain access to subterranean utopias. Agartha and Shambhala are two mythical cities in Central Asia whose existence has been either literally or figuratively believed in. The Dentians of Agartha stand for worldly power, while Shambhala is the abode of mystical enlightenment. Ex-SS Nazis were brought to America by the CIA under Project Paperclip and given senior posts at NASA. NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab in Pasadena was set up by occultist Jack Parsons, a rocket engineer who was a disciple of Aleister Crowley, and who was notorious for ripping wormholes in space-time and letting interdimensional negative entities in. From the late 1940s onward, an unholy alliance of OTO devotees, Nazis, and senior 33-degree Freemasons duped the American taxpayer of billions of dollars and faked several moon missions in order to further their work on secret black-budget operations. The movie Hellboy strongly resonates with the Nazi SS theme and Jack Parson and Crowley's attempts to open interdimensional wormholes in order to come in contact with alien beings, using ancient ritual. This was of course the goal of Hitler as well, and one of the major areas of research he gave to his Brill Society. Werner von Braun, a close associate to Jack Parsons and Nazi SS scientist, who was also illegally transported to the States via the Paperclip program, took a trip to Antarctica in 1967, 2 years prior to the Apollo missions, in order to study and or collect lunar meteorites to be used as fake moon rocks, and possibly investigate Hyperborea. Because von Braun was a former SS officer, hoax proponents have suggested that he could have been susceptible to pressure to agree to the conspiracy in order to protect himself from recriminations over his past. Hubbard, founder of Scientology, was also friends with Jack Parsons, and to give everyone an update on my Cassini satellite project Lucifer research, Scientology makes its way into the Synchromystic fray in 2009 with the film Quantum Quest: The Cassini Space Odyssey, as John Travolta, a Scientology guru, highlights the cast. Shia LaBeouf, our Optimus Christ Cube Guardian, stars alongside our Matrix Messiah Keanu Reeves in a story concerning Magog, the son of Lucifer trying to use the Spear of Destiny to unleash hell on Earth. Let's not forget Magog was the nickname given to George Bush Sr. by the Skull and Bones Association. According to legend, the Spear of Destiny is said to be the spear used by the Roman centurion Longinus to poke the side of Christ upon the cross to make sure he was dead. This act fulfilled a biblical prophecy concerning Messiah, Psalm 34:20, but one of the soldiers pierced his side with a lance, and immediately there came out blood and water. Either Joseph of Arimathea or Mary Magdalene collected these mystical substances in the Holy Grail, after which it, along with the other utensils involved in the crucifixion, the spear, the purple robe, the reed wand, and the crown of thorns, disappeared. Only the Spear of Destiny has supposedly ever been found. A young Adolf Hitler became entranced by the aura of the spear while it was on display in Vienna. A guide told him that the legend was whoever possessed it would control the destiny of the world. Hitler became an avid researcher of spear lore. When he rose to power in Germany, Hitler annexed Austria in 1938 and retrieved the spear for his own. Hitler surely knew the medieval relic he retrieved was not the actual spear. Heinrich Himmler also knew it was not the real spear, as evidenced by the design of his Wewelsburg complex, the symbolic seat or center of SS power. Near Paderborn in Westphalia, Himmler believed the spear was something far more profound. René Descartes referred to the pineal gland as the seat of the soul. It's often referred to as the third eye. It is believed by some to be a dormant organ that can be awakened to enable telepathic communication, or an uplink between this realm and higher realms. Science has recently discovered that the pineal gland is covered with crystalline structures called calcite microcrystals. In his book, The Spirit Molecule, Dr. Rick Strassman states that in addition to melatonin, the pineal gland secretes a psychedelic chemical called DMT. His case studies are loaded with astounding stories of another realm experienced under the influence of the drug. These testimonies include contact with otherworldly beings and locales and knowledge of the underlying unity of all that is. Himmler's Wewelsburg Castle is the point or apex of the actual representation of the Spear of Destiny. From a bird's-eye perspective, the entire complex looks very much like the human brain. Stranger still, the Eye of Horus, or the Eye of the Moon, also fits nicely into this map, implying that Horus, Jesus, and all other sun gods were representations of the psychedelic experience, discovered through the DMT pathways in the crystalline-covered hallways of the pineal gland. This is also the eye that you see atop the pyramid on the dollar bill, the one true Stargate and inner Messiah. The magic psilocybin mushroom being the manna or his flesh Catholics so ignorantly take in wafer form at communion. And here's an excerpt from Daniel Pinchback's Breaking Open the Head on his first experience with DMT. As I had been warned, it was like smoking a shard of lawn furniture. With the next intake, the unfolding and unveiling began. Runes and geometric patterns filled the air, hovered around me, tattooed themselves over the walls, the furniture, the other people in the room. These images were copper or golden colored, and I only had a few seconds to look at them. In those few seconds I saw an intricate interweave of sacred geometrical motifs, pentagrams, seals, and symbols, golden triangles, drawn from every mystical and traditional source. I seemed to be projecting forward at an incredible speed. At the periphery of my vision I saw twisting white columns like high-tech swizzle sticks, as if I was following a ladder or lattice up, or in or out of all of the above, to hyperspace. I had the sense of floating through a fractal tapestry, a curving and infolding plane of synthetic plastic, fantastic whiteness and gleaming colors in endless vibrant hues. This extra-dimensional realm I had pitched into was made, I felt certain, of data, of quantum equations, visible shamanic harmonics, and the self-weaving fabric of extra-dimensional superconsciousness. It was science fiction made fact. A dimension devoid of natural things, of plants and of human need, of our weak and imprecise symbol systems. DMT land was an interweave of tantric mandalas, virtual reality fantasies, stained glass areola, a 10-dimensional Walt Disney World projected into some far-fetched and far-flung future. There was in that place rushing toward me an overwhelming force of knowledge and sentience. I knew it was impossible that my mind on any level had created what I was seeing. This was no mental projection. This was not a structure within the brain that the drug had somehow tapped into. It was a non-human reality existing at a deeper level than the physical world. Suddenly I was rocketing through their cities, multi-dimensional, jewel-faceted, hard, and immaterial places, where geometrical and tentacular constructions were being taken apart and reconstructed at lightning speed that I cannot recall more than a tiny trivial fraction of. They were humanoid as far as I can remember, which is unfortunately not far enough. I recall a blue entity, blue like the color of certain celestial Buddhas in Tibetan Tenka paintings. Gesturing in my memory, I see him with one hand raised, waving at me. There were fountains and spinning mandalas like lit-up roulette wheels or flowering chakras that seemed organic as well as mechanical. At the center of the city there was a great fountain like the fountain at the center of a Renaissance town square, where bits of data or perhaps mathematical potentialities or burbling new test tube universes were flowing in rainbow patterns of ultraviolet froth.
You will be held in detention until your evacuation center clears you for transport. Just take it easy. Take it easy.
Hey, we gotta How did this happen?
The moon! Come on, move it!
That's impossible. What happened?
What, you've been living under a rock?
Yes, I've been living under a rock. Now tell me.
The demolitions for the lunar colony screwed up the orbit, okay? The moon's breaking up, all right? Come on.
Hey!
As the moon breaks apart in the sci-fi film The Time Machine, and martial law is promptly declared, as if to discipline the collective mind on how to act in case of a deep impact or Planet X event should it occur. Others look to our less fictional skies for the passing of the 10th planet. A shocking report recently posted over at Project Camelot came from a Norwegian politician who allegedly has knowledge of Ark-like structures being built all over the world in preparation for such a cosmic disaster. Here are a few excerpts from his letter to them. The Norwegian government is building more and more underground bases and bunkers. When asked, they simply say it is for the protection of the people of Norway. When I inquire when they are due to be finished, they reply before 2011. The Planet X I learned about is from all what I have seen up until now. The government knows this and are keeping it from the public. They have been tracking this object in the sky for a very long time now, and were given the first warnings from the USA. I know that 18 bases exist in Norway. I don't know what many of the dangers are because I'm not a scientist, but what I know is that before 2012, the different governments are going to leave for their bases that they have built for the last 40 or 50 years.
Thundar, the Barbarian! Our year 1994. From out of space comes a runaway planet, hurtling between the Earth and the Moon, unleashing cosmic destruction.
The ancient Sumerian culture, who apparently were visited by beings from Nibiru on a prior passage, had advanced knowledge of our solar system. They knew exactly how many planets there were, as well as Uranus and Neptune being bluish-green in color. This impossible feat accomplished hundreds of years before the most primitive telescope had been invented. Both in The Time Machine and Thundar, the return of archaic man is a primary theme, all technology being lost to the rivers of time because of an Atlantean-like catastrophe. Here in Thundar, we see a serpent race attempting to make human beings their slaves using death flowers, a form of brain toxin to dumb down the population. Not too unfamiliar from the reptilian element in our own world.
I'm the Lizard King! I can do anything! Come on, raise your hands if you understand!
Promised me, Kara. The harvest is nearly complete. By dawn, the death flowers will be on their way. Kiddox, keep their word. They better. The death flowers are my weapon to defeat the humans beyond the swamp.
We see similar death flowers in Philip K. Dick's A Scanner Darkly. Our Matrix Christ, Keanu Reeves, cultivates the Blue Lotus, a highly addictive and debilitating illegal drug called Substance D, or slow death, distilled from small blue flowers, has swept across the country. In response, the government develops an invasive high-tech surveillance system and puts in place a network of informants and undercover agents.
Mighty Set, I heed your call. Let your power flow through the Black Ring. Let the doorway between the dimensions be open. Into this earthly sphere, great Set, that I may hear your commands.
For thousands upon thousands of years, I have waited for these stars to fall. My liberation is now at hand.
How is this possible, Magnificent One?
The stars are made of the same metal as the Black Ring. Behold. You must build me 7 great pyramids with a disk of star metal atop each one. Only then can you forever release me from the abyss. Only then can you make me free.
That was a clip from Conan the Adventurer. Talk about a little intense content for children. The interdimensional shape-shifting lizard kings David Icke is famous for speaking about demand that we build them 7 pyramids of power throughout the world, with star metal or monatomic gold elements as the capstones. In Masters of the Universe, there's another Serpent King who transcends dimensions, Skeletor. as he soars through the wormhole on his octagonal hovercraft, positioned between two cobras, using cosmic keys or vibratory musical notes correlated with sacred geometry to rip a hole through the fabric of spacetime. In the film The Arrival, we see our 9/11 resonator, Charlie Sheen, stumble upon an enormous terraforming machine designed by an alien race to rapidly heat up the planet Earth to make it more habitable for them, while killing the entire human race in the process. An eerie fictional tale as we see our own polar caps melting at an alarming rate. Perhaps in reality this warming trend is a much more natural event which is correlated with solar and galactic maximums. Perhaps this works in synergistic harmony with the re-emergence of hollow Earth civilizations, and a reuniting of the dual hemispheres of the human race. Mr. Sheen, you better get out of there right away. Nobody wants this secret getting out. In fact, they're going to trigger an alarm followed by beaming a picture of your face on multiple hexagonal monitors in just a second. Another creepy aspect of this film is the possible alien technology to make themselves appear as if they were completely human. A premise used in many sci-fi films such as They Live. Perhaps a little less fictional component of an interspecies commingling policy in the government archives. In the distant future, after the destruction of the moon, a primitive archaic society on the surface is governed by a group of hyper-intelligent subterranean telepaths, who entrain beasts to slaughter for them and give them an ample food supply. The Uber Morlock, played by Jeremy Irons, reveals that they have a case-like society, with each case nearly a different species in itself, fulfilling a different function. This is a dark and reptilian perceived evolutionary timeline. Much as the elites of today utilize mind control and clever propaganda to force the lemming-like population into any sector of the maze they wish, this is not the distant future at all. This is present day. A parasitic consciousness is alive and well in our society and on our planet, and they have entirely too much power. It's time for us to balance out the chessboard.
Amazing. Conan, wait!
Look, Grandfather. The fiery tears are made of metal.
Devouring consciousness. Star metal. Digesting power. Monster of energy. It's a monster. Kiss the snake on the tongue. Kiss the serpent.
Only a few stars have fallen. Set summons me. I must go to the pyramid at once.
As Skeletor transforms into a monatomic golden god in front of a rather menacing and alien Masonic Stargate, and demands He-Man and the rest of Eternia bow at his feet, we must utilize our intuition to discover what portions of the collective consciousness are responsible for this imagery. The cosmic keys are in our hands, to play a symphony of holographic beauty, to craft and design this world and this life in any orientation and direction we choose. What chords will you play? What music will you make? All music in this presentation was off of Perdition City by Ulver. Join me in the extended version of this video at my website labyrinthofthepsychonaut.com, where I will explore Harry Potter Serpent Sinks, Red Dragon, and more reptilian-infused 80s cartoons.
Pan can mean all or whole, and it is in this context that James McAvoy, as the Faun from the Chronicles of Narnia or Oz 77 in Kabbalah, becomes most relevant.
In the film Pan's Labyrinth, Ivana Baquero, our Alice in Wonderland resonator, finds herself on the other side of the wall as she is asked to come sit by her father's side in front of 3 enormous pillars, which are reminiscent of the third-degree Masonic tracing board as well as the 9/11 mega ritual. The walls are adorned with several golden zodiac wheels as the fawn of the labyrinth welcomes her back home. A paraplegic satyr leads Team Hellboy through an ancient stone cavern in Ireland, ending up in a subterranean hollow earth-like realm, where they seek a means to remove a magical Spear of Destiny dagger wound from Big Red's heart. This correlates with Michael Tessarion's work on the Irish origins of civilization.
We see the Pan and Golden Boy resonating Hellboy fighting atop a golden gear with the 8-rayed Stargate shape. Star shapes also evolve from the Stargate Mandala Circle, a particularly relevant one being the 8-armed octagram.
As the two battle for leadership over the Golden Army on the revolving gears of time, more twin symbolism can be seen between Prince Nuada and his sister. Luke Gross, the Prince of Elves and Hellboy, also played alongside Ron Perlman in Blade 2. His character in that film was a genetic hybrid vampire, with an evolved genetic orientation. With the birth of their in vitro twins, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie now also resonate with Gemini, or twin energy, the beginning of a galactic cycle culminating in 2012.
The infinite manifesting temporarily in form takes the circle as its primary shape. Variations in play of the cosmic mandala generate the plethora of Stargate shapes like the target or bullseye. The Spanish Dora resonates gold, as in El Dorado, and the title shows her exiting the circle dot bullseye with the Sagittarius galactic center arrow pointing the way to alignment. The circle dot is the astrological symbol for sun and the alchemical for gold.
Speaking of gold, Jake, Crispin Glover, our Grendel in Beowulf, lays on a bed of the monatomic brain food in the lair of his mother and golden dragon daemon Angelina Jolie. Glover resonates with the circle dot of time and the lightning bolt Tesla Stargate created when said energetic ribbon strikes the clock tower in Back to the Future, sending Michael J. Fox back to good old 1985. As King Beowulf lies dying next to his half-dragon son in the waters of the Baltic Sea, one can't help but notice the aesthetic similarities to the Golden Man Oscar Award. Interestingly, now obtaining a bizarre correlation to the dragon or vampire, or in Hollywood's case, psychic vampirism and mind manipulation, as his synchronicities tend to suggest. The island of Neverland, the land without time, is seen as a singularity, thus conjuring Atlantean images of lost civilizations just beyond the cusp of our comprehension, which may only be found with a childlike imagination, or a very determined gold dust-carrying Julia Roberts pixie. The 8-pointed star again symbolizing the Gate of Gnosis, the legend or compass guiding us through time and space. Charlie Korsmo aligns with the dark side temporarily to play a Masonic game of baseball with Captain Hook, sporting the 9/11 resonating jersey as his father Pan looks on from the bleachers.
Daddy? Opened Pandora's box.
Daddy?
Get down!
In Hook, Captain Hook is swallowed by a giant crocodile while fighting Robin Williams as Peter Pan. This giant dinosaur and dragon mouth represents the center of the Milky Way. The encounter with Pan, the all or totality, symbolically illuminates and aligns. Brendan Fraser journeys to the center where he encounters galactic center reptiles or dinosaurs, and more recently the same story repeats as he fights the Dragon Emperor in the third Mummy film. Brendan Fraser in Encino Man has shared the screen with Vertical Limit's K2 Mountaineer Robin Tunney, resonating Robin Williams or Peter Pan and Robin Hood. Shangri-La, Beyond the Gateway in the Himalayan Paramounts, is the interior journey to cosmic consciousness and the exterior galactic alignment.
The god Sobek, which was depicted as a crocodile or a man with the head of a crocodile, was a powerful and frightening deity. In some Egyptian creation myths, it was Sobek who first came out of the waters of chaos to create the world. As a creator god, he was occasionally linked with the sun god Ra. Curiously, we even see soft drink companies such as Sobe subliminally resurrecting the ancient Egyptian god to sell more energy-boosting soft drinks, by suggesting you are indeed ingesting light. He was also shown with the Ankh, representing his ability to undo evil and so cure ills. Once he had become Sebek Ra, he was also shown with a sun disk over his head.
The Dragon Emperor climbs the tower using the Eye of Shangri-La to open the gateway in the K2 resonating Himalayan peaks.
As my friend Jake mentions K2, the 1111 Time Wave Zero, in which a higher learning of the nature of the holographic universe, or environmental construct occurs for all sentient beings on the planet and beyond. It jump gates us back to our double K resonator King Koopa, played by Dennis Hopper. Hopper plays alongside Keanu Christ Reeves in the movie Speed, and strongly resonates the psychedelic experience and consciousness expansion, with his roles in Easy Rider and The Trip, a blatant homage to LSD amongst other compounds. Both Hopper and Jolie played the one-eyed Horus resonators, just as Keanu Reeves is blinded and gains sight beyond sight in the final Matrix chapter. Jolie aids in an expedition to Shangri-La within the Hollow Earth, and Hopper resonates the Age of Aquarius as he stars alongside Kevin Costner in Waterworld. Gary Oldman plays Sirius Black in the Harry Potter franchise. Ancient Egypt provides the most regal history for Sirius. Initially, it was Hathor, the great mother goddess who was identified with Sirius. But Isis soon became the major archetype, sharing honors with the title of Sirius as the Nile Star. An icon of Sirius as the five-pointed star, shades of the golden mean, has been found on the walls of the famous temple of Isis Hathor at Dendera. Oldman plays the Oz-resonating Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg, as Zorg contains the word Oz in reverse order. He is virtually a slave to the Dark Star, a Luciferian destroyer planet that uses a form of telepathy to control his mind. Curious that Sirius is the brightest star in the sky, and yet he resonates Sirius Black, and worships the Dark Sun, the realm absent of light. Oldman also plays the King of the Dragonhead Vampires alongside Keanu Reeves in Bram Stoker's Dracula. After learning of the suicide of his beloved, he curses God and stabs his sword into the galactic center of the Zodiac Cross, where the blood from the Tree of Life spills out, granting him immortality. This lifeblood acts as a genetic catalyst that prevents him from entering direct sunlight.
In Robin Hood, Morgan Freeman, a Moor having an adventure in England, takes out his prayer mat to align himself with the Mecha Cube, the symbolic cube of space formed by the dragon axes.
Anthony Hopkins plays as the King of Danes in Beowulf, the priest which enrages Oldman into damning God, and the reincarnated crusader who quests for the Dark Prince, and could be seen beheading Virginal Nosferatu in Dracula. A casket was originally a box for jewelry. A coffin is tapered, having a hexagonal or octagonal frame with the crown diamond-shaped chakra placed at the head. It also mimics the geometry of the Tree of Life, and to many Masons and factions of the so-called Illuminated, this was intentionally done to signify eternal life. According to an Eastern Star book, The Lady's Friend, we learn that Masons are taught to look forward with hope and confidence to the opening scenes of eternity, to look upon death without fear or trembling and welcome the grim tyrant as a kind messenger, sent by our Supreme Grand Master to conduct us to the Grand Lodge above, where the great architect of the universe presides. Mr. Freeman resonates this idea heavily as he clearly frees himself from the fear of death in the film The Bucket List, next to our Joker, Jack Nicholson, and he enjoys singing in his casket bath lined with pigskin in this segment from the Electric Company. He stands over the X marks the spot, or target, as the bullet inscribed with sacred geometries penetrates his third eye, but first traveling through a torus-shaped donut, the possible mathematical description of the shape or orientation of the universe. If one wishes to obscure the truth, the best method is to put what you're trying to hide in plain view. I'm going to be talking about Hollow Earth theory, Synchromysticism, and Symbolism in the media. There are certain unexplainable phenomena having to do with the Earth's geomagnetic pull, magnetism, our own DNA's response to it, and our own genetic manipulation, and the misfortune of being told lies about our history and purpose for being. A subdivision of Hitler's SS known as the Thule Society often used the Black Sun sigil in their most powerful and potent rituals. As you see, the spinwheel design of the Black Sun emulates the Stargate motif, or alternating island syndrome, that is most commonly representative in the media. Here you have our spaceship Atlantis, which also indirectly confers Stargate technology and references the pyramids at Giza. Here you have the Aurora Borealis over Antarctica, a phenomenon that cannot be explained away by solar flare or corona damage to our atmosphere. Notice the serpent rope DNA on either side of this Thule Society flyer with the swastika or Black Sun sigil in the center. This society was renowned for being able to reverse engineer alien craft or extraterrestrial craft, not necessarily from outside of the planet, but perhaps within. Sacred geometry seems to be an indicative value of the correspondence between the Earth and the conscious beings on its surface, and perhaps within its surface. The fractalated nature of our microbiology, our DNA, seem to mimic the stars and the patterns of Fibonacci sequences in every possible way. Here you have a motif of the southern tip of the Black Sun as an entrance to Hollow Earth or Agartha, and this is a geometric explanation of the patterns of Giza. Illumination. Whatever it is at the boiling point of social consciousness. There is a pale green electric rider on the glass horizon, bringer of equilibrium, balance, and evolution into a new era. But how deep does the rabbit hole go? As Alice sits on her psychedelic Amanita mushroom cat with the Cheshire Cat glancing over at her in his Masonic stripes, I can't help but to think that this wonderland they're depicting is actually Agartha or Shangri-La. As seen in Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow, they actually venture to Shangri-La in search of an evil Nazi scientist by the name of Totenkopf, which relates back, once again, to the Thule Society and Hitler's mission to Antarctica and a venture to find Agartha. The Atlantean Stargate design seems to directly emulate the human chakra system, with a pyramid of enlightenment at the top via meditation or psychedelic drug usage. H.P. Lovecraft, the writer of the Cthulhu mythos, was a story about a subterranean Agartha-like realm in which psionic creatures, represented in a demonic light, lived. The same is to be said about Dungeons & Dragons and the Underdark. Here we see our favorite Tiny Toon rabbit, right in the bullseye of an Atlantean stargate. Another rabbit in a wormhole, you could say. On a checkerboard in a Masonic lodge, with eyes of illumination at the north and south entrances to Agartha. 33 divisions from the surface of the planet to the interior. Ah, Middle-earth. That wouldn't be a reference to anything inside the planet, would it? And why should we be having wars over it? Here we see Gandalf and the serpent-tongued Balrog demon being cast to the subterranean H.P. Lovecraft-like realms of Agartha. And then we come, of course, to the demonization of the sacred feminine as she eats the apple in the Garden of Eden, tempted by the serpent Lucifer, who is only representative of the occult knowledge of the origins of Genesis, the origins of creation. Our fork-tongued serpent DNA magnetism, our slave race reconnaissance, forever quarantined, the caduceus that enslaves, and takes from us the light of Lucifer, the light of knowledge. Cast him down into the abyss, the subterranean labyrinths of the Underdark, the Cthulian realm, or what Agartha may actually represent. Life. The lost tribes of Abraham, the Lemurians, Atlanteans, Sumerians, the tribes of Babylon, and the Maya. Perhaps they knew exactly what Agartha was, and where it was, and why the Illuminati has tried to blindfold us as to our origins for so long. And God created the waters above and below the firmament. Above and below. Around and around the checkerboard we go as we look at the reflection or manifestation of the imagery created in the subconscious mind when meditating on the wormhole, ascension, or polarity motif. Space is the tomb in which music reverberates, and matter is comprised of the cymatic waves created in its symphony hall, the voidless ocean. In the film Dark City, tuning is a term which means an ET or AI ability to manipulate the physical universe via telepathy, basically altering the vibration of existence with one's own thought. Curiously, the exterior architecture of the World Trade Center buildings happened to be a three-pronged tuning fork design, and when the buildings were collapsed with ritualistic intent, the reverberation of that action tuned the population of Earth's consciousness in a new direction entirely. And although the magicians behind the event may have desired a different outcome, it has allowed the sequence of time-space to be viewed with more scrutiny, We now hold the cosmic keys that were once hidden from us. We now hold the magnifying lens or eagle eye that allows us to pierce the veil of linear thought and expose its infinite dimensions. A new language system of the cosmos being read for the first time. Clive Owen stars alongside the eagle eye herself, the Eye of Horus, Julianne Moore in Children of Men, as well as our Matrix Queen of Hearts, Monica Bellucci, in the film Shoot 'em Up. Owen resonates the White Rabbit as he's seen falling down the spiral-checkered stairway and is constantly munching on carrots throughout the plot. Bellucci is, of course, the Heavenly Mother and Goddess, left hand of the Merovingian bloodline and seducer of the One, Neo, or Christ. Environmental destruction and divine punishment are considered as reasons for human infertility in Children of Men, which unfortunately resembles the illuminated plot to depopularize the world. A fiction which is applied as a means of assimilation to a waking life progression or idea, such as the ET phenomenon, have been occurring at a staggering pace as of late. Rosario Dawson, our alien queen from MIB, resonates Oz as Officer Zoe in Eagle Eye.
Hello, Agent Perez. Perez Zoe.
Julianne Moore voices the HAL 9000 resonating AI Aria in Eagle Eye. AI can synchromistically be interpreted as a singular self, which, along with Aria's lone, glaring Eye of Horus, resonates unified and aligned consciousness. This eye is located at the heart of the Pentagon, one of the symbols charged with significance by the 9/11 mega ritual.
As pointed out by Chris Knowles over at The Secret Sun, the Horus Eye was also seen at the Atlantis Hotel unveiling in Dubai, coupled with fireworks that could be seen from space. The center of the complex resembles the pineal gland or third eye, the dawn or awakening of spirit, the solar eye or floating capstone within, and the soaring eagle above. The all-seeing computer AI, Aria, uses cymatics just as Ben Affleck's character does in Daredevil to have sight beyond sight. This utilization of vibration as a sort of mapping sonar is used by some predatory animals to capture their prey. Christian Bale and Lucius Fox also use this technology to capture the Joker or Fool in The Dark Knight. A mathematical formula is converted into symphonic melody for the purpose of bending space-time in the new sci-fi show Fringe.
Alistair, it's working.
Is it stable?
Yeah, it's stable. Completely stable.
My God. We go tomorrow.
Tomorrow, Alistair.
It's Crowley. It's Crowley.
You know me. Always joking. I think, Mr. Crowley, it's time for a little field work.
Creating personalized television viewing pleasure for Lucifer the Lightbringer, we see Eugene Levy as Crowley being zapped into the Stargate, symbol of unified and aligned consciousness in Stay Tuned.
Jeffrey Jones, Satan's pit boss in Stay Tuned, stands next to the Eye of Saturn, the Luciferian window within the Pentagon. Something we see our JC resonator Jim Carrey guarding very closely in Lemony Snicket's series of misfortunate events. He actually uses the Eagle Eye in his Dark Tower to burn down the Baudelaire mansion in hopes of claiming their fortune, and also belongs to an Illuminati-like organization that uses the spyglass as their coat of arms. Chris O'Donnell walks in front of the Eagle Eye on the top floor of the Acer building in the film Max Payne. The building is of course pyramid-shaped, just as the Illuminati complex is shown in Babylon AD. O'Donnell produced the film Y2K, which starred A Clockwork Orange's Malcolm McDowell. He also produced the flick The Triangle and starred alongside Robin Tunney in Vertical Limit. All 1111, Crowley, Pyramid, and thus Stargate resonating films. The Xbox game Dead Space features a demonic relic or monolith that is aesthetically shown as wrapped horns with sigils covering its entire surface. This same design is incorporated into the Bank Casino in Ocean's 13, which houses Lucifer himself from The Devil's Advocate, Al Pacino. The Rock, our pentagram arc jumper from Doom 3, which shares a similar premise to Dead Space, is Agent 23 in Get Smart. He plays a terrorist who places a bomb in the Disney Orchestra complex, which is timed to go off in correlation with a specific cymatic or musical sequence the band is scheduled to play.
When not being introduced to Horus as Oz-resonating Zoe in Eagle Eye, Rosario Dawson opens the Stargate above ISIS Liberty in Men in Black 2 with the help of Will 2K.
In I, Robot, James Cromwell, our JC Resonator, is the lead scientist who writes the 3 laws of modern robotics, and who also martyrs himself to save humanity. The head CEO Fat Cat of the corporation has 3 orgonite pyramids representing Giza sitting on his desk. Later, Will Y2K Smith destroys the hive mind or gateway to artificial consciousness, which sits atop rays of the octagon.
The three major dragon axes, or parameters of galactic alignment, form the heavenly cube of space. We see Shia LaBeouf interact with a black arc or cube in Transformers, while in iRobot a dragon and Checker Chariot enters the star's profile during interaction with Black Star Will 2K.
A diamond is used to find the gateway of inner illumination in The Mummy, assassinate the president via cymatics in Eagle Eye, and has been uniquely used in the recent South Park election episode.
The entire country is busy reacting to the election. We are about to pull off the greatest heist in human history.
So, come on, enlighten us. What are we stealing this time? The Hope Diamond.
In the film Transformers, which highlights the cube of space, I caught a subtle 9/11 sync as Anthony Anderson devours a tray of wormhole tour-shaped donuts. The clock on the wall behind him highlights the 9 and 11 respectively. Certainly not intentional and maybe not relevant to some, but yet another display of the symphony tides of the universal language system developing slowly at first, and culminating with the ascension of mankind. The ritual of human sacrifice to appease the bloodthirsty Valkyries was undertaken during the 9/11 ritual and many other sites throughout the world and through history. So the masterminds of these events could prove they have no fear of God, no regard for morals, and to invoke their dark masters. These beings of the lightless dimension who have become immortal through technology or by other magical means proclaim themselves to be the highest form of consciousness, and have promised life extension and other technologies to the highest-ranking Illuminati officials in return for the chaos they create on this planet.
The only way you get to go to heaven is to die in violence. You die in your sleep, you go to hell.
In Valkyrie, Tom Cruise is another singular eye Horus resonator, associated with the Galactic Center as Black Star Swastika.
Jim Carrey's lifeboat to the real world is tipped with an all-seeing eagle eye head, which eventually leads him to the ascension stairway of enlightenment. Mark Wahlberg stands inside the H-covered circle of power, or heliport, in Max Payne after ingesting a blue potion of the blood gods. He then commits the act of murder to close the magical portal. In Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, an ancient being with clairvoyant abilities, whom also has rows upon rows of eyeballs embedded into his wings, removes the Christ-like Spear of Destiny from Agent Hellboy's side. Forrest Whitaker commits suicide in a very similar circle of power in the film The Air I Breathe, featuring the Hollow Earth exploring Brendan Fraser. His role as an immortal Nephilim in Hancock was simply saturated with eagle-eye symbolism. Here's one I highlighted of him sitting on a bench that reads, "Find your dream job." And tying in the Julianne Moore all-seeing AI sync with ET consciousness, we see her in the film The Forgotten, the plot of which revolves around an extraterrestrial intelligence that removes memories of having children from parents, in order to test if there is more to human interconnectivity than brain impulses alone. This is of course very similar to the flash device used by Will Smith to wipe memories clean in Men in Black. To close, we see an ET creator god from Dark City walk towards Kiefer Sutherland in an Aquarian pool with the motif of Galactic Center on the ceiling, and a clock on the wall with both of its hands fixed on 11. Making another 1111 or K2 Krallian circle of power in congruence with the stairway to enlightenment.